Today's daf of Daled. We're going to start where we left off yesterday on the bottom of Chav Gimel on the base. Taanit Talmidi, you'll see it 2 lines up before the end of the There were 2 students, the Afique, the Rabbi Yitzchak ben Yashiv, that were studying Torah from their Rebbe, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Yashiv. The Talmidim said to their Rebbe, Niboy mar rachmi alon b'nichkim tuva. Notice Rabbi Yitzchak, the Rebbe, was known for his power of prayer. So they asked him, please ask for compassion up on high, that we could be greater chachamim, that we could increase our knowledge and do even better and supersede these levels. And they got a strange answer from the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, at Omer Lahu, Imi Hoisa Ushlachtia. I can't pray on your behalf as you requested, because although it was once in my hands, and whatever I asked from Hashem, I got a response from Shamayim, from the heavens, but now my tefillos are no longer accepted on high the way they used to be. Rabbi Yossi bar Ovin, Havishchiach Amei de Rabbi Yosei de Min Yokras. Just to summarize, what we spoke about yesterday here on Chav Gimel was about the fact that the greatness of the tzaddikim in Eretz Yisrael, that their tefillos were always accepted. Now the Gemara tells a story about Rabbi Yossi, who was originally a student of Rabbi Yossi de Min Yokras. But Shavke, at some point, Rabbi Yossi ben Bar Ovin decided he can't learn Torah from Rabbi Yossi de Min Yokras. So Yossi Lakami de Rav Ashi. Instead, he came to study Torah from Rav Ashi. And here we start today's daf, which is Chav Dal. Yom Echad, on one particular day, Shamei, Rabbi Yossi bar Ovin heard Rav Ashi de Kogoris. He was teaching the following. Omar Shmuel. In the name of Shmuel, he said, Ashola, a person lifts up dag, a fish, min hayam Shabbos on Shabbos. And here the question is, will he violate a malacha doraisa of netilas neshama of shochet? How do you know whether or not the fish died as a result of it is taking it out of the water? If the fish got so dry, kesela, in a shear, a width of a matbea, of a coin called a sela, chayiv, then the one who lifted the dag out of the water is chayiv skila, if he did it b'meizik basra, because he violates the malacha of the netilas neshama, the malacha of shofet. And this is sugi in Shabbos daf ayin he. The afal pishat dag adayim mifarches, even though the fish is still flopping around, and you might think that as long as the fish is flopping around, he can throw it back into the sea and it would live. No. That's not going to pater him up from the chiyuv. It's already yavesh, and there's a shear of a sela, and you cannot resuscitate this fish. It's already dead. Avale, so Rav Yossi, our oven responds to Rav Ashi, Alema Mar, why doesn't my master add something? And he should add the following condition, which would apply to the din of Shmuel, Uvein Sapira. This chiyuv of netilas neshama, which Shmuel was formulating, it only applies if the hisyabshus, the dryness of a shear of a sela, is between the snapirim of the dag, the fins of the dag. And those are like sort of like wings, if you compare it to wings that enable the fish to fly through the water, to swim through the water. Only in that place is there a simon that the dog is dead if there's a siabshus kishir sela. But if the siabshus of that shear of sela was in a different part of the skin of the fish, then it doesn't prove, and it cannot establish as a simon that the fish is definitely, it's gone, you can't revive it. And therefore, if there would be a hisyabshus in a shear b'mokom acher ba'oro, then he would not be chayav in netilas neshama if he puts it back into the water, because it very well is possible that the fish will revive and live and swim. Amalei, so Rav Ashi responded to Rav Yossi Bar Av, below Saval Amar, don't you hold Dahi, now there's that sugya, where the chiyuv only applies if, according to Shmuel, the Yavshus was Kisel Ben Snapirov, Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Ovin Amorov. In other words, if this is your opinion, why didn't you say it in his name? Or right? Lo Omer Zos Bishmar, Kala Omer Dov B'Shem Omer Mevi Guliolo. Amalei, so Rabbi Yossi Bar Ovin responds to Rav Ashi, Anon Miu. Maybe you don't realize it, but I am Rabbi Yossi Bar Ovin. And this was my shmua, this was my halacha, my principle that I said. And therefore, I don't have to mention my own name. Amalei, so now Rav Ashi responds, and he asks Rabbi Yossi Bar Ovin, wait a minute, for love, Kami de Rabbi Yossi de Min Yokar, the reason why I don't recognize you, I didn't identify you, is because this is out of context. I know that you're a student of Rabbi Yossi de Min Yokras. And that's where you used to always learn. And is there some reason that you left him and you came to learn by me, asks Rav Ashi Amalei, and Rabbi Yossi Bar Ovid explains to Rav Ashi, hey, I used to learn by him. Amalei, so Rav Ashi asks him, so why did you leave him? And he's no longer your Rebbe, he came here to learn Torah here by me, Amalei, and Rabbi Yossi Bar Ovid tells Rav Ashi, Gavra, that person, meaning Rabbi Yossi Bar Min Yukras, the al brave al barte lochas. He didn't even have compassion on his own daughter, his own son. And a lady, they chas. Can I expect? Is it possible that he would have compassion on me? Certainly, he would not have compassion on me. He's a real midas hadin type of guy, and therefore, I was afraid that maybe if I would step out of line, maybe he would give me a whammy and I would lose my life. And therefore, I don't want to learn Torah in that state of tension from a person, a Rebbe who's so tough. And now the Gemara is going to explain, give us the background of the two stories in which Rabbi Yossi ben Yukras did not have Rachmanis on his son or on his daughter. And the Gemara clarifies, Brei Maihi, what was the story that Rabbi Yossi ben Yukras did not have compassion on his son? Yom Achada, on one particular day, Avi Agrile Agire Bedavra. Rabbi Yossi had workers that were paid for their day's work. These were day workers. They were doing malacha out in the field. Nagalahu. On that particular day, Rabbi Yossi was late in returning back to the field. As a result, he did not give them food to eat. He didn't give them bread to have a suda, didn't give them a lunch break. In the absence of Rabbi Yossi, the Polim, the workers were desperate for food. They turned to the son of Rabbi Yossi and said, Kfinon, we are very hungry. And at that time, the Polim was sitting underneath the branches of a fig tree, and the fig tree had not yet produced its fruit. Omar, the Ben said, Te'eno, Otzi perosayich v'yochlu poleab. In other words, he was praying for a miracle that this fig tree would immediately produce its figs so that my father's Poland would have something to eat. And indeed, a miracle occurred, Afique v'yochlu. So there was a whole change in the natural cause and effect relationship in which now we have a tree that's producing fruit prematurely, In the meantime, Rabbi Yossi comes back, and he explains to the Polim why he didn't give them food. Lo tinaktu b'daktayu, don't suspect me for ignoring your mazonos, but rather it was not a pshi on my part. It wasn't that I decided I don't want to feed you, but rather I naghana, that which I was late in bringing you your food, that was because I'm mitzvah tarachim. I was involved in the tircha of a mitzvah. I was preoccupied with a mitzvah, apparently a very important mitzvah. We had hashtahu disagoy until now. I couldn't get back to be Torah, and therefore for Yasuda, therefore I'm late. I'm late. Don't worry, said the Paul. Rachmana lisbe'ech yehechi the aspan barach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you the blessing, yasbiacha, just like your son was masbia. He blessed us and brought us food. Amar Husa, Rabbi Yossi starts inquiring the Poland, where did he bring food from? Amru, and they responded, Achi bachi avi maisa. This is the way your son produced miraculously te'enim from a tree, a fig tree. Amar Los, Rabbi Yossi gets very angry at his son. B'ni, atah trachtas koncha lahotzi te'ena peroser shalom b'zmana. When you brought about this miracle, you are matriach, your creator. And that's a zilzul in what the Chachamim established, as we saw yesterday. It's not the right way to ask God to deviate from the laws of nature. The laws of nature are holy of holies. And don't be matriach Kadosh Baruch Hu, change those laws. And as a punishment for this action, Rabbi Yossi asked from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yosef Shlo B'zmano, that my son never should die before his time. And in fact, it seems that the son of Rabbi Yossi died prematurely. Very harsh punishment for his son. And what's the story of his daughter? Brate Maihi. What's that story? That Rabbi Yossi did not have Rachmanis on his daughter. Havile Barta Bali Yofi had a beautiful daughter. Yom Echad, one day, Chazil Ahu Gavri saw a person who was like looking through binoculars. He sort of opened up a little bit of an opening in the fence, in the wooden fence, in order to look at her. And Amar Lo, so Rabbi Yossi says to my hi, what are you doing? Why are you looking, gazing at my wife, at my daughter through this hole that you created? Amar Le, he answers, Rebbe, if I can't marry her, I'm not on that level that you would take me as a son-in-law, but at least let me enjoy the benefit of seeing him, of seeing her. I can't reach that level of marrying her, but at least I can enjoy her, gazing at her and seeing and beholding her beauty. And after this Maisa, Rabbi Yossi turns to his daughter, the Amar Lebiti, you know what? As a result of your beauty, come in Saras Lahu Librios, you're causing tsar to the Brios. They want to marry you, or at least to see you. And they're probably being nichshal in istaklus, which also to look at a woman. And therefore, shuvi lafarech, go back and return to the state of offer, meaning you should die. So people should not be nichshal as a result of your beauty. And here the Bach adds v'chein hava, that that's exactly what happened. And it's interesting, in the previous case of the ben, you don't find that girs of v'chein hava. And it's possible that in the case of the son, where the father said he should die before his time, it wasn't nikah. Nobody would know whether he died as a result. So only in the case of the bas that she died immediately as a result of this whammy that her father put on her. And again, you see the power of the words of Rabbi Yossi ben Yukras. And the Gemara continues, Afileahu Chamara, Rabbi Yossi had a donkey, Yidahavu Agrile, and when the Sochrim who rented that donkey do malacha with the donkey, Kol Yomali Urta, they used to come back in the evening, having Meshadrile Agra Gavah, And the renters would send them money by attaching it to the back of the donkey. So the donkey would bring the money to Rabbi Yosef. The Asil Lebeimara, and this donkey would go from the Socher back to the base Baila and bring the money. The Tafule or Batzule, but now miraculously the Chamor knew that if they had either overpaid or underpaid, Lo Asil, she would not move from the spot. She would not bring from the Socher, the renters, the money to Rabbi Yosef. Yom Achada, on one particular day, Inshu Zuga de Sandale Allah, somebody forgot his pair of shoes on top of the back of this donkey. Come and collect it, and the Ason would not move from the spot. And only after the sandalim was returned, only then did the Ason come back, return to its own. Elazar ish birta kad havichazule gaboit staka. Again, this is a story about the greatness of one of the Chachamim, Elazar ish birta, or ben birta. That's gaboit staka vitashimine. As soon as they saw him coming, they would hide from him. And he was very generous. Why were the gaboim hiding from him? Whatever money he had in his pocket, Yoav, whenever the Gabbai came and said there was a need to support the Aniyim, he would empty out whatever he had and give it to them. Yom Echad, on one particular occasion, Havasolik l'shuka, he was out in the shuk, this Elazar, and lemizman edunya lebarte, he was really buying a dowry for his wife, for his daughter's wedding. I mean, this was a very important purchase, obviously. Chazu Gaboit Stocker, the Gaboit Stocker saw him from a distance. Toshimine, of course, they ran away from him. But somehow Elazar saw them from the corner of his eye as they were hiding from him. Azal Veroid Pasreni ran after them. Omalahu, and he said to the Gaboit Stocker, Ishtabatichu, I'm being mashbia you that you tell me, B'mayaskisu, what cause were you collecting for? What mitzvah were you collecting for? Omrule, they responded. They didn't want to lie. Biyasom, biyasoma. We're talking about marrying off an orphan, a boy or a girl. Amalahem, Elazar ish birta said to them, Havoda, I'm taking an oath. Shehein kodmin libiti. Their needs are more pressing than that of my daughter. The nesuim of a yasam rabona come first. And therefore, shakal kol the harvest day, Elazar took all the money that he had with him to buy a nedunya for his daughter, and he gave it to the Gaboit stock, a poshle chad zuz. He had one zuz left over in his pocket, and that was because the Gaboim said you had already given them more than enough money that they needed to marry off the Yisoma. So you keep this zuz, we don't need it. And Elazar took this zuz, zavin lechit, and he purchased some wheat with that zuz. Asik Shadye Biachlova. He brings them back home and he puts them into his storage house where he keeps the grains. Asoy de Beso, the wife of Elazar Ishbirta, comes. She asks her daughter, "My Aisiavu, what did your father bring home from the shuk?" Meaning, what did he purchase as an adunya for your marriage? Or she said to him, Kolmati Aisi Biachlova Shadisa. Whatever he bought out in the market, he put into his Otsar Shalchitim, Asya Miftach Bava the Achlova. When she, the wife of Elazar, Ishbirta, came to open the door of the Otsar to see what did her husband buy, she saw that the storehouse was so full of chitim that konafka b'tzinora dedosh, the chitim were coming out of even the hole in the door, which kept the door closed, or it could be opened. And because there was so much chitim there, it was lo miftach bava de chitim. She couldn't even open the door of the otzar. Ozla brate the baby drasha. the daughter of Elazar, Ishbirto, went to the base medrash. Amalei, she tells her father, Bore, come and see ma. Havcha means your beloved, the Almighty. That from that small volume of chitim that you brought from the shuk, which you brought from one zuz, you had such a great miracle, and the entire otzar chitim is full of wheat. Obviously, this is a great miracle. Amallah, and now the Elazar Ishbirta understood that his daughter wanted to sell that for a dowry or use that for dowry. And he said, Avoda, I take a shvua, harei hein hekdesh Allah, that these chitim are hekdesh. No one's allowed to have hanofim. And just like you're not allowed to have hanofim hekdesh, not allowed to have hanofim these chitim. And apparently the reason for that is because since they came from Shamayim and they were miraculous, that they have the status of Hegdish L'Shamayim, v'en loch bahem, and you don't have a portion in them, el ke'echad me'aniyei Yisrael, you can only collect like one of the poor people of Israel, minat tzedakah. And again, this is because there's an Isur lehenos mimaisa nisan. And the Mefarshim here want to know why was he allowed to get any benefit from these chitim, even ki echad me'aniyei Yisrael. And one of the Mefarshim suggests here that all he allowed her to take was the share of one zuz. What would one zuz bring in? Because that's not a share of a nes. It's only beyond that it's a nes. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiach, who was the grandson of Rebbe HaKadosh, he was the son of Rabbi Gamliel. Gazar Kanisa, he decreed a fast day as a result of Atziras Kisham, there was no rain, Boy Rachme, and he asked for Rachme Shamayim V'lo Asa Mitra, and yet it did not rain. So Rabbi Yehuda Nesiach realized that his tefillos, his prayers were not accepted on high. Omar, he declared, Kama Ika Mishmuel Aramasi Yehuda ben Gamliel. Now, Yehuda ben Gamliel is himself. So he's talking about himself in third person. And he says, come and look and behold the difference, the great difference between Shmuel HaNavi and myself. Because when Shmuel HaNavi, he himself alone came to ask for Gshamim, and he prayed for rains to fall out of season, HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded immediately, and the Geshamim came immediately. Even though that was not the Zman of Yeriditz Geshamim, it was the Zman of Kotzir. It was during the harvest season. And furthermore, generally speaking, if rains fall down in the harvest season, that is a klol. And that's what Shmuel wanted to say to the people of Israel, because they were requesting a king, and it wasn't a very righteous request. Shmuel actually declared, "Alo k'tzir chitim hayom, vayikra Shmuel Hashem, vayiten Hashem kolos u'matar bayom hahu." And me, on the other hand, all of Israel come together with me. We're all praying as one community. I was being mevakish rachamim for Gshamim. I'm crying and screaming to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and I'm not getting any response. Oilo lador shekein niska. Woe is it to a generation that has a nasi who was appointed on them, and the nasi's tefillos are not accepted on Ivy. Oilo lemisha also b'yom of kach, and woe to the leader of Israel, meaning to myself, to the nasi, that during his time the tefillah was not responded to, because apparently the people were not on the level for Hashem to hearken to their prayers. At this point, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiah gets chlish sadas. He's mitztayer. He's very upset about this. We also mitra, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought down the rains. The Beis Nesiah in the Beis Hanasi, Gazar Tanisa, they were gozer Taanit for the Atziras Kisham. Somehow the word did not get to Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish because they had no knowledge, no idea that this day was a fasting. However, Litzafra Odeinu, in the morning they told him, they notified them, both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, that this is a day of Taanit. Reish Lakish is perplexed about this. Amalei Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, he says, Halo kabilna alon me'orta. we did not accept upon ourselves the Highness yesterday, together with the Beis Hanasi, is this Highness obligatory as far as we're concerned without a Kabbalah's Highness? The Gemara earlier on Daf Yud Beis had established the Machlokas Amoraim about the time of Kabbalah's Highness. According to Shmuel, it's got to be integrated into the Tefillah's Mincha itself, into the structure of Tefillah. On the Mincha before the Highness, according to Rav, it's enough to be Makabal Highness anytime during the afternoon, the Mincha, before the Taanit. You don't have to integrate it into the Tefillah. But it seems that everybody, that you require Kabbalah's Taanit. Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan said to Reish Lakish, in this case, we're not talking about a Taanit Yachid, where the individual decide and determine whether he wants to become Taanit Anan, Basrayu Garinan. This was a decision of the Beis Hanasi on behalf of the entire community. And we are Nigrarim or Nimshachim Achar Beis Hanasi. And since the Beis Hanasi, they made this Gzera, and they accepted upon themselves as a community already yesterday, before the day of the Taanit, then it's as if we also accepted upon ourselves the Taanit yesterday before the Taanit. We are Nimshach and Nigrar Achrei Beis Hanasi. Now, this law applies only in Eretz Yisrael, where they had a Nasi, and his Gzera would obligate the entire community. In Chutz La'aretz, they didn't have a Nasi. Every single individual has to be makabel on himself the kindness. And therefore, even if the entire community is fasting, it really has the status, the Hashem, of the Tainus Yachid. And they therefore would require a Kabbalah's Tainus. Another story about a Tainus that was decreed by the Beis Hanasi because of the lack of rains. The Veinasiya Gaza Tanisa, and despite the Tainus and the Tfilos, Hashem did not respond to us, Mitra, there was no rain. Tanalahu, they learned a Brisa, or they were taught a Brisa, would be a better translation, Oshia, Zeira, to be Chavriya. So Oshaya, who was the smallest, meaning the youngest of the entire Chabura of the yeshiva, taught the people that in the parasha of Chatas Tzibur, in a case where the Tzibur was shogeg and they worshipped Avodah Zarah in Bamidbar Tespah, the pasuk says, "Vaya imei einei ha'eda ne'esasa lishgaga." And we're going to emphasize the two words, "mei einei ha'eda." And einei ha'eda is a reference to the ziknei ha'eda, sheme'irim es einei ha'am. So they enlighten the eyes of the people. And in order to understand this whole pasuk of Ahaya Imeinei Aida Nesta L'Shkagi, the Gemara gives a mashal lekala shehi bebeis avia. In other words, nobody knows at this point whether she's, attractive or not. Kol zman she'nei yafos ein kol gufa tzricha b'dik. If her eyes look beautiful, then you know that the rest of her body also is in good shape. You don't have to examine it. However, a nea trutos means rakos, they're soft, and they're not beautiful, they're not attractive, they're called gufats for people. If the eyes actually prove something about the entire body. And the nimshal here is the Edei Ha'eda, the Edim of the Dar, which are the Zkanim, and the Rosh Ha'eda. If they sinned, then we have to check their actions, and not only their actions, but also the actions of Pshutei Ha'am, of the rank and file citizen. And we have to assume for sure that there's some Vadai Ra, no question about it, amongst the Pshutei Ha'am, and as a result, the Ziknei V'Rosh Ha'eda Nichshel, they made a mistake. And therefore, we apply this logic to the Yishamim. If the tefillah of the Ziknei Ha'eda is not responded to, is not accepted, then we should check the maisim of Pshutei Ha'eda, and we have almost no doubt about it that they're royim. And that's why the tefillah was not accepted. So Rav Oshia, with this mashal, is trying to rebuke the people in the Beis Hanasi, the Einei Ha'eda, that Kevan Shehem Rishon Tzrifi Pshuto Ha'am Livdok Es Masechet, their actions should be checked out. And as a result of the Maisim Roim of the Einei Ha'eda and the Pshutei Ha'am, their tefillos to bring Geshem were not accepted on high. Now, once the Beis Hanasi heard these words from Rav Oshia, and it was very harsh castigation, then Asu Avde, the Avodim of the Nasi came, they want to really give this Oshia and Tatas Tata, right? Really punish him. They somehow threw this kerchief over his head, over his shoulders, the Kamatsari, and they were causing him pain and suffering. Lupanei must say, but now the people of the city come to the Avdei Anasi and they say, Shavki, let him go. Why? Dohanami Mitzaralon, he gave us really strong musar, rebuke, which is called Macharif Ubegadev B'direi Chachos, but we didn't punish him in any way. We didn't cause any pain. Why? Came in the Chazina, we saw the Chalbili L'Shum Shamayim, whatever he does, it's for the sake of heaven. And in this case, he wanted to be machzir us b'tshuva. Lo amri le'midi. We didn't say a word to him. We let him go. V'shavkin lo. Kunami shavkua. You too should let him go and not be mitzayir him. His rebuke was l'shem shamayim. Rebbe gazar tanisa v'lo asa mitra. Rebbe decreed a fast day where there was no rain and there was no response up on high. Nachis kamei ilfa. And the Shliach Tzibur in front of Rebbe was none other than a Chacham, none other than Ilfa. The Amile others say Rabbi Ilfa. Omar, that Chacham made the following declaration. Mashiv Aruach, he began reciting Mashiv Aruach, and immediately, even before he finished Mored HaGeshem, right after Rabbi Ilfi said Mashiv Aruach, Umiyad, immediately Nasa Zik, a great wind came, and then when he said Mored HaGeshem, the Asamitra, immediately the rains fell down. And Rebbe saw the tefillah of this Chacham, how much it was accepted in front of the Ribono Shalom. So he asked that Chacham, "My ovadach, what do you do for a living? You must have some great spus that your tefillos brought down the Geshamim." Amar lei, so the Chacham responds to Rebbe and he says, Dairana bekusta dechika. I live in a kfar that's very dachak. Dachak means very poor, destitute. Anius gidola bios. The lespe chamra lekidusha v'avdal. They don't even have wine for kiddush and avdal. Tarachna, I put myself out, put in a lot of effort. Basina chamra lekidusha v'avdal. That I was able to get a hold of yayin for kiddush and avdallah on behalf of the Bnei Akfar. Mafikna lahu yidei chavosayim. And that's how I guarantee that the Bnei Akfar would be yotei yidei chavosam of kiddush and avdallah. A tremendous act of chesed, and in the schus of chesed, his tefillos were accepted. Rav Ikla, who asked for, Rav came to a certain city and there was no gshamim, Gazar Tanisa, he declared a fast day, and nevertheless, also the rains didn't fall. Nachas kamei shnika de tzibura, and a certain person, we don't know who he was, came to serve as the shiach tzibur. Omar, and the Shliach Tzibur said, Mashma Ruach, and immediately V'noshav Zika. The Ruach came down. Omar, he continued, Morid HaGeshem, V'asa Mitra, and immediately started raining. Amalei, so Rab was curious. What is it that you have such schuyot that immediately God responds to your prayers as you ask them? Amalei, he responded, Mikri Dadik, I teach young children. Umakreno livnei aniye kivnei atire. I teach the children of the Ashirim in the same way that I would teach the children of the Aniyim. So I teach both of them the same. I teach the Bnei Aniyim the same way I teach the Bnei Ashirim. What does that mean? This is an Afkamina Gabi tuition. Called lo efshale, if the Aniyim cannot afford to pay me tuition, lo shakilu minei midi, I don't take a penny from them. I teach them with all my heart and with all my soul. The Islay Pira de Kavre, I also own a small pond of dogim, of fish. And that's how I make my living. Cholman de Pasha, if you have a child who doesn't want to learn, and we have to find a motivation, then Mishahadina le Minay. I'm Mishachidim. What's Mishachidim? Like almost like a bribe. I appease them, or I bring them in. The children are very happy to eat these fish. And I organize the fish for them, fillet and fried fish. I don't know what he had with, breadcrumbs, hopefully gluten-free. Anyway, I masaking them, a fayis or some, and the osi until they come back and they study. So you can find many different ways of motivating the children to study. Rav Nachman Gazar Tanisa by Rachme V'lo Asa Mitra. Hashem did not respond to the supplications of Rav Nachman. Omar, he turns to the members of the city, Shaklua leNachman, take Nachman, he's talking about himself, lift him up, Avoto min Guda li'ara. He says, Tashlicho si b'chazka misfas kotza la'aretz, throw me down from the wall to the ground. Because if my tefillos are not accepted on high, then why should I live in this world? Holash Daite, he was very mitztayer, and as a result of the Tzar also Mikra, the rains fell down. Rava, Gozar Tanisa, he was Gozar Highness on the Tzibur because of Atziras Yeshamim. By Rachmi Rabba asked for Rachmi Shomayim that the rains could also Mitra, and it didn't rain. Amrule, he asked his Talmidim, Vaha Rabbi Yehuda ki avi Gozar Tanisa also Mitra. When Rabbi Yehuda was Gozar Taanit for the Geshamim, it was immediately effective, and the Geshamim fell from Shemayim. So why weren't my tefillos responded and accepted on high? Why is it that Rabbi Yehuda was Gozar Tanisa? Again, the Talmidim were questioning Rabbah, why Rabbah was not able to bring the rains with his tefillos, whereas Rabbi Yehuda wasn't able to do so. Amalei, so Rabbah responds to his Talmidim, my Evan, what should I do? I don't know why the koch of tefillah of Rabbi Yehuda is more powerful than mine. And now he goes into an analysis.